They don't see that it was clearly listed on the website. They think it's rude to make them wait in line. They can't believe you won't be open this Sunday. They think you're the crazy one. They're not normal customers, oh no. They are.
The Patronarchy.
Hey everybody, how's it going? It's a new episode of The Patronarchy. We're open for business and ready to talk about the customers that didn't want good service, they wanted good servitude. I'm your host, Vincent Didiano. Thank you for joining in on another episode. And if this is your first time, hey, thanks for clicking on the video or the podcast. If you're listening on Spotify, wherever you're tuning in, thanks for joining us and talking about the customers we wish we could forget, but probably never will. In today's episode, I've got as my guest, local comedian Derek Minto. Derek, thanks for joining, man.
Hell yeah! Thank you for having me here. I'm super excited. This is fun. I've dealt with many people before. I've dealt with a lot of them.
For those of you who are not familiar with the Pittsburgh area, Derek is been a pretty prominent comedian here in our area for a while. I don't think I haven't met any local comedians that don't have a degree of respect for you, man.
Oh, well, thank you. I do know the ones that do not have any respect for me, however.
Well, them.
Thought we were supposed to swear in the beginning.
He's always been nice to me, so that means he's good.
No. Yeah, comedy's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Anywhere when you're in the entertainment industry, because, I'm sure, you've made friends who are musicians or who are like poets or whatever. I mean, because, going to various mics and places here in Pittsburgh. There's always some people that just don't get along for one reason.
Oh, yeah. It's just natural. Stand-up is a very individual act, Yeah. It's very, most things, unless you're a singer-songwriter by yourself, you and you're a band or you're a lot of, even doing improv, you go up with other people, but stand-up there in and of itself is just very ego-driven. Even if you're not an egotistical person,
right?
You are the thing. So there's a little baby narcissism, and everybody does stand-up comedy.
Oh, totally. I definitely know. When I was doing stand-up, I've let my ego go at times.
Oh yeah, I get. Whoa.
Yeah. I think it always said for me, I think, this is something that happens to all comedians, and where you tell what that is your tried and true best jokes, your best bits, your best gags, whatever, and for some reason you're in front of that one audience that doesn't and then you just want to blame it on them. It's like, you don't have a sense of humor. My joke about dolphin tacos is fantastic, or some bullshit like that.
There's always this thing when I start. Especially when when I started, and probably there was a lot of older comics from the 90s and early aughts. They had this mentality. It's you could never blame the audience. You or those. It's your job to make them laugh. If you don't, you're a failure. It's yeah, but if you do enough stand-up comedy, you quickly learn that sometimes audiences are just awful.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what, you could do anything. It doesn't matter. They are sometimes just a bad audience. They don't know. It sounds really weird. It's how can you be a bad audience? It's sometimes you don't understand there's expectations for the audience, shutting up, not pulling out their cell phone, this and that. One of the worst things, I will not name this comic.
Okay. We
did a show at Club Cafe, and this is one of the worst. So obviously you don't want people on your phone, right? In the middle of the show.
Of course.
He's doing his set. He's doing fine. He's doing fine. He's up there. And these two girls, they pull out their phone and they're looking at it, and they're kind of giggling, and they're kind of in the second to back row. And I'm in the back, I'm watching this happen, and he just goes off on them. He calls them the C word.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a weird way to spell Karen. No, that word. No, just this. And he goes off on them. And it seemed kind of rightfully so, because they were being kind of obnoxious.
Right.
But as it turns out, in this particular situation, they turned the phone around to him, and they were Googling him and trying to look him up on social media because they thought he was cute. And it was this is the way I always explain this. It's I don't know if you have siblings. I can't remember if you have siblings.
I do have one.
Okay. So have you ever seen your sibling get punished in a way that was way too beyond what they did? Like I remember one of my sisters like accidentally broke my stepdad's glasses, and he went ballistic.
Ooh.
And you were just like you cringe, you pull back and you cringe because you're watching this just like thing happen that you kind of can't stop, and that's what it was like. It was like watching someone freak out over something, and it was just completely ruined the next like 20 minutes of that show.
Oh god,
he never recovered. He never recovered. He tried to do the thing where he just kept trying to tell a joke to get a laugh to get off stage, and it wasn't happening. And it was just the host came up, shook his hand, and brought him off stage. Tom Kupiak, that was the guy that took him off stage, and it was like, oh, you messed up. You messed up.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, in that situation, anytime you try to recover on stand, I know this. Usually we talk about the podcast. When other comedians come on, I'm going to talk about this crap. We'll get into like the nasty customers in just a minute. But recovery can be so hard. I mean, I had that. I mean, you remember that? I had that joke about the very first time I did stand up at the Smiling Moose open mic. You were hosting that night. It was the week you were hosting. And I totally fumbled my joke, and I was making a joke about the Casey Anthony trial or something, and then I had it. Oh
man, that makes me feel so old right now.
Right, right.
It's like, I'm like, oh man, I remember when there were lots of jokes about that. Oh,
yeah. But I think the trial had been over for like a couple years at that point. I think I can't remember the exact story, but I was comparing it to something else or something. It was the joke was more about how media overblows stuff, right? And I was using the Casey Anthony trial as an example because even though it was like a couple years old, it was still in people's heads. And I remember like I was like, I didn't really care. The joke was me talking about I didn't really care about the media coverage, and it wasn't a joke I had planned to tell. It was like a joke I was improvising because I like. Oh yeah, now I remember. Like it's my first time, so I practiced my bit, which you only got to 5 minutes at this open mic. Practiced my bit. And I had down to just under 5 minutes. And then I did the bit on stage. Everybody was laughing. I was like, holy crap, I've done well for my first time. And then you hadn't given me the light yet. And I realized, oh my God, because I was nervous, I must have like spoke real quickly through my jokes. Because I'm not even near 5 minutes. And I should have just been like, okay, I'm done. It's my first time. Who gives a shit? Nobody knows who the hell I am.
By the way, no one knows that you could do that the first time. You think you have to do the time or you're in trouble.
No.
Continue.
Yeah. Elliot Burns showed us you don't have to commit to a fight.
Yes.
That's a story for another time, ladies and gentlemen.
That man could have his own podcast about what he does.
Yeah. But I figured I got another minute, so I'll just make something up. And I started talking about the media coverage. And I was and for some reason, in my head, I was going to say, oh, there was all this media coverage about the trial, but I didn't really care about the media coverage. But then I somehow fumbled my words so hard that I said, oh, this little girl died and I didn't care. And I left out the whole section. Because I was like a dumbass. And everybody was just like, and I remember on stage, I was like, I immediately realized what I just said. Like a nanosecond later, I was like, no. And then I can't remember how I recovered. I said something. I think I just insulted myself and I got the crowd back on my side. But
it works.
Yeah. And I'll say one more thing about another, because the Incident Club Cafe reminds me one time at the Scarpazi's open mic. This is years ago.
Oh, Scarpazi's.
Yeah. I was up at the mic, and if you've never been to Scarpazi's open mic, which I know some of you guys might be listening to this in Texas, I don't know, but it's like it's not a bar set up to have an open mic. At least back then, I know they've done a little remodeling.
Oh, it's crazy now, but continue.
Yeah, because it has like a U-shaped bar, and there's only like so much space between the bar and the wall, so like the comedians would be really in the corner with the mic, like trying. And right sitting as I was up there at the corner of the bar with these two young women, and one of them I knew was on the list to go up that night, and her friend were just sitting at the bar completely ignoring me, and they're right in front of me. They're like 3 to 4 feet away from me. Once again, there's not a lot of space at this bar.
There's a certain amount of insanity in this place, in that there's 12 TVs playing 12 different sports things. You're in this packed into this corner. This was how it used to be. It's not this way anymore.
Yeah, they had a remodel.
Now they just did a new remodel, which is even they tore out the whole bar.
Really?
Like the stage is like elevated. Like you should see. It's crazy. I've never, dude. I've done stand up for, I think, almost 14 years now. Which that was upsetting. Well, it was also like 2.5 of it were COVID. So it's like, does that count? Like, I don't know. What is it like? Do we get a buy? Like, I don't know how that works.
We'll condense it to 1.5.
Yeah, it's 1.5. Just pay the fine and you're good. But I've never seen a bar start out, and it was just not. It was a dirty dive bar.
Yeah.
It's like
One of those
honestly,
neighborhood
like,
bars. Yeah.
now it's like a legit nice place.
Oh.
Like they fixed the kitchen, they redid the back, they put in 2 outdoor spaces.
Oh.
So like, and now they just tore apart the bar room. They put this like massive, like beautiful, like white stone countertop that like is set in the back of the room. So now you can actually sit at tables and watch the show, as opposed to before when you were just in this U-shaped hellscape, like of angry yinzers.
Oh yeah, because it was even hard to walk up to where the mic stand was because just everyone's packed.
And I would just rub my disgusting body over the back of every single patron on my way to try to hide from these people, so I could do my 5. Like, but yes.
Yeah. But so anyway, so
Yeah.
these 2 girls, one of them is like they're on at least one of their phones, and they're just kind of like focused on the phone. I'm like a minute or 2 into my thing, and I'm just getting irritated because they're right in front of me, just several feet away. So it's the middle of my set. I can't remember what joke I was telling. Cannot remember. But I just I'm still in the microphone in my hand. I just go right up to them and like kind of get almost in between them, like super close. And I'm like, hey guys, what's going on? And they're just obviously nervous because I put them on the spot. And they're just like, oh, no, nothing. Oh, okay, cool. Just tell them, I was like, all right. Just let you know, comedians don't like it when you just sit right in front of them and on your phone ignoring them. Just letting you know. And I was saying it that way because once again, I knew one of these women was on the list to go up that night. And they were like brand new or something. And the funny thing is, that person, I still know them today. They're my friend and they still do like entertainment. So it's funny. I thought it was just gonna be some dumbass person because we've seen that.
So you made friends with the bad audience members.
I know, right?
You made friends with them. That's so nice.
Yeah. And they became a committed comedian for like a long time, and they're still doing stuff. So yeah. So it's funny. I just thought they were one of those because like when you go to like the open mic several times a week, you see plenty of people that either do it just because their friends dared them to do it, or like they think it's fun and they come around for like a few weeks and you never see them.
Which is also like kind of degrading in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, you had to be dared to do the thing that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
It's like the worst one, and this is like leads into a little bit like dealing with customer service, like running an open mic is dealing with awful stuff. Is what happened yearly is the end of everyone's football league. And they're like, their fantasy football.
Yeah.
Or I like to call lame Dungeons and Dragons. One of the things, if you lose the league, like that you would have to go and do 5 minutes of stand up at an open mic. And so you get these like 20 jockey dudes who come in and they make their friend go up for the first time. They're like, it's like this big hoopla for them. And I'm like, I do this every week. Like, I love doing this. Like, this is a punishment for you. Like, it's just so degrading.
I know.
So you always buried those guys.
Yeah.
You made them wait. You made all their friends buy a buttload of make the bar a buttload of money.
Oh yeah, because the second he's done off the stage, they're gonna be gone in 5 minutes.
And and it's so funny how people get really mad when they're like, "Well, you put them at the end." I'm like, "Yeah, you brought people." Because the first time I did it, that's exactly what they did to me. Yeah. They're like, "Oh, you're going on at the end." It's like, "Oh, that's so cool. You think that's important?" It's like, that's an open mic. You don't want to go at the end.
Yeah, you don't want to go. Yeah, because if you bring people, if you're going to do stand-up comedy, it's important. Yeah, it is important to bring. It's to have support.
Yeah,
but also people show up because it's good for the show. But I was saying, if like you're doing open mics, and it's like 20, 30, 40 people come to sign up for an open mic, you bring a bunch of people, the host is going to put you towards the end because the host also has a responsibility to the bar and restaurant owner to help make money. That's why the bar owner is doing the open mic. It's an extra bit of revenue.
He's not doing it for the artistic experience.
Yes. Yeah.
You could make an argument that Jeff Holt did, but who knows? He also still liked to make money.
Yes.
It's like it's okay. You can have both. You can like.
Oh
both.
yeah. Rest in peace.
Oh man, Jeffy.
All right. Well, I think we spent enough time talking about the comedy days, which
it's probably going to come back. Don't worry. I feel like we can't dodge that bull.
No. But anyway, Derek, tell us all of your encounters with the Patronarchy.
Oh man, dude, so I don't like you. I remember you've had a variety of different jobs, right?
Oh god, the movie theater, which you know about because that was the longest job
ever.
You
were a baker for a little bit.
Got fired. Only job I've ever been fired from, baker.
I remember you telling me. I remember you telling me after that happened, and I was like, Because wasn't the explanation is just like you just weren't like fast enough like to do it?
Yeah, basically, short version is when I first got hired, it was 40 hours a week, and it was like over $10, which is the most I had ever made.
And this was also a long time ago. That was like a decent wage. It was like, oh, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, this was like 5 to 6 years ago, and it was like, okay, 40 hours a week, over $10 an hour. That was like more than I was making at my previous job. And the problem was the business was suffering. Like we couldn't get enough people coming in the door. So slowly over the months that I worked there, my hours started to get cut more and more. And at first I was like, I get it. We're slow. I get it. But then at one point, I was the sweets baker. So I made the cookies, the scones, and I wasn't a trained baker. They had to like give me a crash course in baking. Eventually I got decent. Not great, wasn't, but eventually like they start, my manager was like, you should have been done by 9. Keep in mind, I get there at 4:30. To make sure everything's baked and ready to go when we open up at like 8 or something. She was like, you should be done at 9. I was like, you schedule me to 12. So if I have till 12, I'm going to use all my hours because there's like the baking that's set up and then there's the cleaning afterwards and the prep for the next day. And after a while, she was like, you should have been done earlier. I'm like, and the reason why she wanted to be done earlier was to kind of like a psychological force me to cut my own hours. Because if I did finish by 9, I would have had less than 20 hours a week at that point.
But
my hours would cut in half.
This thing, you're also like brand new to this profession. Like, so that's interesting. I always thought of it as like a thing where it's like, well, if you aren't professionally trained, like I watched, I love baking and like my stepdad's a pastry chef and stuff, but he doesn't do like scale like that. Like he does like, he was a pastry chef. So like he make cakes and like he do decorative work and stuff like that. Like you were like pumping out things.
Yeah. And once again, I was never the best, but I thought my stuff was decent, And the thing was, we had hired on another sweets baker who, like, then we were working together. And this person, she had a love for baking, so she'd been baking all her life. So she was really good at making cookies or making like banana cake or something, or banana bread. I'm sorry. And we got along really great, and it was really nice to have her there because she had been baking her whole life. It's what she was passionate about, and that was one of the reasons why the manager, I think, never confirmed. But now that she had someone that was good, she could afford to get rid of me, and it was just a cost cutting. And here's the thing: it was not just that the hours were cutting, because the more she cut my hours, the less money I was making. I might as well have gone back to my old job my previous job that I had left because it had a psychological effect on me where I was literally just miserable. I become like mean, not only towards customers, but mean towards my coworkers, people who I actually liked. I might as well have gone back and I started making subpar cookies and scones and all the other stuff I would make. And when she fired me, honestly, it didn't hurt me. I didn't care because I was so miserable at that job. I felt like I had just gone from one crap job to another crap job. So, everybody on the staff, liked me, and they were like, "Oh, sorry, man, I'm gonna go." The weird thing was, 2 months later, I get a call from my friend who worked there, who got me the job there. She called me. It's like, the owner just came in and shut us down. Can you come pick me up and take me home? I was like, what? And like,
oh wow,
yeah.
So you kind of dodged a bullet early in the end.
Yeah. So thankfully, I was a Lyft driver. I was able to fall back on that. I wasn't making great income, but. Yeah, so I get there, I pick up my friend, I take them home, I take up another, one of our coworkers who was bawling and sad, like she was legit crying because she had a baby on the way, and now she was like, I don't got a job. I caught up with her like a year later, she's doing fine, thankfully, but it was like, and the store stayed shut down for like a year and a half before it reopened with a whole new staff and everything, but only job I've ever been fired from in my adult life, and it turned out well because then I eventually started doing what my current profession is, which has led me to working for a good company. So
no, man, I've been fired a couple times, not always deserving it, but sometimes. Like I did get to finally, I think the first time in my life I quit a job on principle was during COVID. So like, before COVID, I was effectively for the 2 years before that, I was a professional comic. Like I made all my money, or almost most of my money, from stand-up,
right?
Which is great. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was it's also rough. Like you have to work a lot.
Oh yeah, it's just like any art form. You get
and so that was cool. But once I got through COVID, like it also didn't help. My partner, she lost her job a couple months before then. So when COVID kicked in, I crashed my 401k, but eventually I just started running out of money. So I took this customer service job, right? It's for Christian radio networks. And so I wasn't aware of this. I don't know how much Christian radio you listen to.
Only accidentally when I drive through Ohio.
Yeah, but so this is the thing. They have, it's for the most part just a similar thing to like, just like a light rock station. The difference is they have an NPR model of fundraising. They do drives. So they do like people call in, they donate money, and they do like a fundraiser. And so first day there, pretty much I get thrown right under the fence. I've done tons of customer service. I worked for Citizens Bank. I ran a customer service whole thing for a bunch of websites. So like I know how to do this. This is a job that I've done forever.
Oh, okay.
And like it's just talking mostly and dealing with problems when they come up. But this is easy. And like I'm telling you, the first 4 hours in there, I've processed like $20,000 worth of donations. Like people are calling in and they're like, I just want to tell you how much I love this station. This station gives the light of the Lord inside me. And my children love it too. And the kids in the background are like, oh my God, we love this place. Here's $1,000. And I'm like, okay, well. Then the lady calls back like again. And she's like, you know what? I want to do another $1,000. And I'm just like, holy crap. But like this happened all day long. So doing this for like a couple weeks, it's so easy. Everyone's so nice. Everyone's so happy about this station. And then I get this lady. And this lady calls in. She wants to do this like matching pledge drive. She's like, she wants to donate $50. And I'm like, okay, it's the end of the day. All my supervisors are gone. Like, and she is just real stern and kind of bitchy with me like the whole time. But like, I'm like, that's okay. It's an older lady. She's giving money over the phone. Like, I understand that. Go to process her credit card and you just get that like loading thing. And then you don't get like a response back. And now you don't know if it's processed. And I'm trying, this you have to understand, this is like an 89-year-old woman.
Oh,
and
okay.
I understand vaguely how technology works. I'm not a master. Like
Same
I have
here.
a Google IT certification, but any idiot can get that. I'm telling you, any idiot can get that.
Okay, good to know.
You want to go get one? It's super easy, idiots. Go get one.
You desperate?
Yeah, you super dumb? I got a job for you. It's really easy. But anyway, so, and I have to explain to her, it's like, hey, we shouldn't, hey, there was a hiccup in this. I don't have any supervisors around. What I want to do is I want to put a pause on this. We'll make sure this gets processed. I'll have someone contact you tomorrow. And she's like insistent that it goes through. She's like, otherwise the devil will get the money. And I'm like, what? Okay.
Wait, did she really say that?
Yeah, oh yeah, she really says this. Like, and I'm like, okay. We can process it again if you want. And I keep trying to explain to her. I was like, it's possible this is going to post twice on your account. We can refund it immediately, but like we really should just wait until tomorrow. And we'll make sure that gets processed. She's like, no, let's do it. I do it again. It goes through. And I'm like, okay. So I write up a little report. I note this thing. I send it to my supervisors.
Right.
I do my job. 2 days later. No, I think it was the next day. Mind you, there are like 50 people working on this phone bank, right?
Right.
Most of them are working remotely at this point. I have to come in because I'm new,
right.
And they want to supervisor with. And they just want to see how I do, and I'm good at it. They're like, this guy's amazing. But around 3:30, 4 o'clock, all of a sudden I hear the phone clicks on. And I go, hello, blah, blah, blah. This is like KS.9, the Lord, or whatever the station was called. I don't know.
The Grace.
And it's like, Derek. It's Grace.
Oh my God, her name was Grace?
Yeah.
Oh, I just threw that out there.
Yeah, I know. That's fucking crazy that you said that. Excuse my F words. Derek, what have you done? And like, she just starts like, you tried to steal my, and this is like, the odds of her getting me is like impossible. Like, and she didn't like call a bunch of times. She just got me somehow. And I'm trying to explain to this lady that I did not steal her money and how I explained to her very clearly. And she's like, you're working for the devil now. I want all of this refunded. And I'm like, we can do that. Like, that's fine. It just keeps going and going. And they have like a no hang up thing. Right. So eventually I had to get my supervisor on the phone. And she was screaming at her that she was also the devil. And it just goes on and on. And like, I get removed from the call. And my boss is on the phone for like 25, 30 minutes. It goes on forever. Then we have this meeting. My boss is like, listen, what just happened is like almost impossible to happen here. Like, you dealt with the craziest lady. Like, and that's not even the craziest phone call I ever got there. Like, I got a phone call once by a lady. The only reason she was donating money was to make sure all the actors in Seattle, because this was right when there was all the protests in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
When they had like the lockdown area. It was called like the TED, or I can't remember what it was called. They had a name for it.
Oh yeah, where they like there's a whole block or something. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually went there when I was last time I was in Seattle. I got to check it. I mean, it's all normalized. Normalized again, whatever that means.
They painted over everything.
Yeah, basically. The Jeff maybe, or I don't remember what it's called. But she's telling me like how all these people are fake actors and snake people, and I'm like, you don't mean actual snakes? She's like, no, actual reptiles. I'm like, okay. But have you ever done customer service?
Plenty of times.
Okay. So have you ever had this thing happen to you? Old man calls in one day and he goes, hello, hi. And he has this kind of like Britishy accent. He's like, now listen, I'm not supposed to call in very often. I know I do. My daughter doesn't want me to. But I just sometimes like hearing someone else's voice, from across the pond. And anyway, how are you? And I'm like, I'm fine. Well, how can I help you, sir? Like, and I'm just trying to be nice. I've worked with special needs individuals. I've worked in elder care. I'm just like, okay, someone is having a day.
Yeah, having a day. Feeling
Dementia
a little lonely.
is, very prevalent throughout the country. Oftentimes it's younger people. We don't deal with it very often. Right. But, you try to be respectful. You don't try to be degrading. And he goes on, he's like, oh, could you hold on just one moment? And all of a sudden you hear quack, 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 quack. And you hear there's a bunch of ducks in the background. I'm like, are you in a pond? He's like, don't mind the ducks. Anyway, like, I'd like to maybe give some money. I don't know, but I'm not sure exactly where my credit cards are, so maybe you could send me a thing. Or, maybe you could contact, hold on, my daughter's here, hold on. No, I'm not on the phone with the people again. No. No. And I'm like, what is happening? And he comes back, so anyway, what's this all about? And I'm like, you called me, sir. Like, and he's like, no. Go on, give me the spiel. Give it to me. And I'm like, I tell him about the Christian whatever. I don't even know if it was, at that point I was working on so many accounts. I was working on like 40 different accounts, so I could get a phone call for anything. At this point, I did like jacuzzi repair, Galease plumbing, Galease Molyneux carpets. One time I stopped a fire, by the way. That's the story. Real quick sidebar on this story. Someone called me and they told me that there was a transformer exploded next to a Molyneux. It was on fire, and so I had to call the police for the Molyneux because they had no idea, so I saved a Molyneux. Anyway, I know. Just like Joey Welch, the greatest Pittsburgh firefighter / comedian of all time. Me and him are both the exact same kind of heroes. Anyway, so, and then this conversation kind of keeps going, and it kind of circles back around, and he goes, so anyway, I was just calling in just to kind of check in on everything. He's, hold on. Whack, 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 whack. And over the course of it felt like a year, but it was probably somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes before I eventually had to disengage.
Right.
Because I knew someone was going to see, like, why do you have a 30-minute phone call with somebody? And I'm just like, put my headset down. I'm like, what just happened to me? And what I didn't realize, so I tell my coworker, I'm like, you will not believe this thing that happened. This guy called in. These ducks kept interrupting him. He was trying to donate money, but he kept forgetting what was happening. We just kind of kept going in this loop over and over again. I told her about it. She's like, I've heard about this.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, what? And she's like, let me ask some of my coworkers. They know, my old coworkers, my old job. Next day she comes in, she sends me a website, and it's like a Wired article. And it's about, so someone made this loop. It's a loop that they just like kind of blast out like a robocaller to customer service lines. And what it is they record the interaction and then they post it online. And it's just to screw with customer service people who are like telemarketers to try to eat up and waste their time. And like, they're like, yeah, some of the phone calls we even go all the way up to like 20 minutes. And I'm like, dude, I did like 25. What the like,
you got the new enhanced
but
version.
then I got to tell everyone about it. Like, it was like so believable. Cause if you know anything about dementia, it's like you get very cyclical conversations. Like, you get stuck in loops because they forget what's happening. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I essentially just talked to a recording for 30 minutes without no idea. So, and what's it, the Alan Turing test, when you can't tell the difference between a robot? What's that test called? Turing test? The test is figure out whether something's a robot or not.
The one from Blade Runner?
No, that's a void comp. That's a different thing. You gotta turn a turtle over and smoke a cigarette and be cool or whatever. However that test fucking works. No, the Turing test, I believe, Turing test is you ask a robot a series of questions to determine whether or not it's a robot.
Oh, okay.
And if you can't tell, then it's past a certain place. The more you know.
Oh man, well that's just
yeah, customer service though, man. Like,
oh god, yeah, I'm sure. By the way, this has happened. I think I saw you notice it earlier. I'm not sure, but for those of you who are not watching on YouTube, watching on Spotify or iHeart, I have this like open sign here in my little studio, and like the kind little cheap you see in storefronts just says open. It's in red and blue lights, and it's keeps coming. The O and the P in open keeps turning on and off.
It's so funny.
It's kind of appropriate in a way.
Again, I just kept catching it at this particular juncture. Like, I just kept seeing. I was just like, oh, we'll switch over, and then like it would pop out every once in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what the funny thing is, like, it's a cheap one. Like, I got it off of like Amazon. I was looking because I didn't want anything super expensive. And the first day I got it, it happened, but it only happened at first when it was just like I had it laying flat on the table. But now it keeps going off on yeah, just there. Oh, fucking hell. Okay, we had it back on for a sec. You know what? We're talking about like just crappy days at work. I feel like it's appropriate. Like the sign's only half, like, well, yeah, half working in a way.
Yeah, it actually it works.
Yeah,
in a way. Like
it works because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But oh my god.
Yeah.
I think I've told this story before on a previous episode. I'm pretty sure I have. This is like one of those stories from the movie theater, but it's appropriate because you work at this Christian radio station. At the theater I worked at once a year, we had this thing called the Projecting Hope Film Festival. And it was a Christian film festival where for an entire weekend, this organization would take like 2 or 3 of our auditoriums and play just like nonstop Christian films. And when I mean Christian films, I don't mean that like that Joan of Arc movie that Mila Jovovich did like 20 years ago. I mean like films done by small movie studios that do nothing but faith-based media. And it was a big thing because we would have it for like the whole weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and thousands of people would come in to these movies. And it was great for the theater because the concession would still be us. So we didn't let them sell their own popcorn. It was all us. So we made...
They didn't sell their own,
so we made
Christ crackers or whatever.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be cool though to go to that thing, get a whole bucket of Eucharist, just a whole buttload of those communion wafers, get like an extra large wine and just sit down and just, eat the Lord while you watch his films in his grace.
Oh, dude, it's funny because we had this because they had like they had like booths there for like organizations that are like other faith-based organizations, and one of them, I don't remember the name of the company, but they had a water filter that was like somehow a holy water filter. Like they marketed towards Christians, like it was like a holy Brita filter or some crap like that, something like that. I think it said it was like had more of a mechanisms to it. But anyway, the person in charge of it asked our manager if they could close down an entire restroom so they could hook it up to one of the sinks. And my manager told them no. And they kept pressing him for like a couple hours till he finally got in this person's face like, listen, you can go into the back and concession and use our sink and fill it up, but I'm not shutting down an entire restroom on a weekend where we have 3 to 4 times our normal capacity of people. Like, because it was like during like a not a busy time of year, not dead, but it's like we would have like it looked like there were so many people coming through the lobby. It was like back in the day when like a Harry Potter movie would open and the entire lobby's filled, but like that 3 days in a row. You know what I mean? So, but anyway,
wow, that's so weird. Like, what is it? I mean, can you bless a filter and then it pumps out holy water? That seems like I don't know.
Maybe they have one of those. Maybe like each one has like a fragment of like a saint's relic bone inside.
Like the foreskin of Saint Jehoshaphat or something. Yeah, dude, you ever been to that church up in Mount Troy or Troy? It's the one church with all the crazy artifacts from like here's the fingernail of Saint Thomas Aquinas. Like Here's 3 splinters of the cross. How do we know? They were there. They performed a miracle with this one. Here's the bones of Saint Joe.
We have documentation in the form of a half-burnt scroll.
By the way, even if regardless of how you feel about Christianity, it's really neat to go to.
Oh, I'm sure.
You can get little squeezy bottles of holy water on your way out. You know, you can fill them up and be like little sip. It's wild. It's a great. I've been there twice. Once as a kid, and once as an adult, and the whole thing is funny because they're talking about the faith, the power of God, and it's a corporeal form upon this land, and then they take you into the gift shop, and now you can buy the power. That's the big push.
Take the Holy Spirit home with you.
Yeah.
But no, it's weird. Like, and then this one time before, it was like in the weeks or like a couple months leading up to like the film festival, we had a woman call and she wanted to know the schedule for the movies. And I told her, and at this time, now remember, like, it's a separate organization from the movie theater. They're not part of the company. And I told ma'am, I was like, and we had some flyers. So I picked up a flyer and I'm reading it. And she wanted to know what movies and what their times were. And I was like, I'm sorry, ma'am, the flyer does not list the movies or their times yet. But it does have the website listed on the back, and it says to go to the website for the times. So they gave us like the teaser flyers, if you want to think of it that way.
Yeah, okay.
Because by the time the festival comes up, they would have full pamphlets and flyers with the entire schedule on it. And she was not happy with that. Like, she didn't get mean. She was upset, but she didn't get mean. She just started talking like, well, I need to know. Like, how do you guys not have it? I'm like, and I had to explain, well, ma'am, you got to understand the Projecting Hope Film Festival, the people that run it, they're a separate company from us. So, they work with us, we work with them. So, I mean, once again, if you want, you can go to the website. On there, she's like, I don't use the internet. And keep in mind, it's only like 10 years ago, so the internet was pretty prevalent at this point.
It's pretty prevalent.
Yeah, so, and she's like, I don't use the internet. And she started going off in this rant about how like everything's on the internet now. And it's not fair to people like her who don't go on the internet. And then I swear to God, to this day, I forget, because at one point I was like phasing out. Because I was on the phone with her for a while. I started to phase out. And somehow she switched it to a rant about how she didn't like President Obama. I love
when they fit those in. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Regardless of, I don't care. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, just as after a while, I was just like, wait, how did we get on Obama? How long did I black out for? Like,
you disassociated from this terrible conversation.
And I'm not, this is not like a defense of President Obama, because I don't like most politicians in general. But it was just after a while I had to make up an excuse. So I told her like, oh, ma'am, I'm really sorry, but I have to go. We have a whole line of people up at concession and they need me back there. Meanwhile, I think there was like one person in the whole lobby and they were playing our like busted Dance Revolution we had in the arcade. Yeah. So
what, the left pad didn't work? What was it? Some guy like me came in and was like, left stomp. That's it.
I won the game.
I won. I broke DDR.
All right. Let's move on. You got more stories.
Right? Oh yeah, man. So one of the things that I did not deal well with Trump being elected. Spoiler alert, I'm a liberal. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm a liberal. And I was very, very upset during that election. In fact, we were together.
The night of the election, I remember that.
I remember.
That was a crazy night.
Not to out you, but you made out with a bunch of chicks that night. Good for you.
I made out with one chick. But I had not made out with anybody in quite a while, so I was very proud.
I thought it was 2.
Yes.
The story's cooler if it was 2. Maybe you misspoke, Vincent. It was 2. We're not naming their names.
Yes, we're not naming their names, but also just as a disclaimer, my favorite person to make out with is my fiance, just in case she's watching this right now.
He said that before we were recording, so don't worry, it's very true. But no, it was one of the most. I could not get drunk enough.
I've told this story to people before. It's crazy.
It was one of the most depressing things I've ever been part of. Yeah. I told Zach Fuck I will never spend an election party with him ever again the rest of my life. I could not. I drank like a whole bottle of scotch and I still wasn't drunk enough to go to bed. Like, that's how it was so inconceivable to me that this happened. And I didn't deal with it well. So when 2020 came around, I'm like, okay, I started thinking about this now. I'm like, I have to come up with a plan to deal with this in the possibility that I can't deal with it the same way with drinking a bottle of scotch. Well, maybe I can, but it's not the best solution. Like, I need to do something constructive. So, someone posted on, I live in Mount Washington, home of me, and someone posted on one of the pages that they needed poll workers, people who to run the judge the elections.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so, I wrote the guy a message like, hey, I don't know if you're still looking for somebody to do this, but I'd love to do this. I'd like to get out of the house that day, do something constructive. And he messaged me back like a day later. He's like, yeah, my friend Sherry knows you. I'm like, who? Sherry Hodgkiss.
Sherry, yeah.
Sherry. And so Sherry works with him, this guy. I'm not going to say his name, but he works at the aviary. And he went to her to vet me. And she's like, this guy's dealt with so many drunk hecklers and people, and to throw so many people out of shows and bars. Like, if there's one person that could do this job and deal with these people, it's this guy. And I was like, that's the nicest endorsement I've ever got.
See what I mean about respect for this man? See what I mean?
Yeah. So, anyway, so I get there. I take a little online class. I get there, and it was very. We knew it was gonna be a super busy day. In fact, it was the most people they've ever had at that poll for an election in like 50 years or some crazy number.
Yeah, the past two elections have been pretty. I'll say they've been pretty intense. I'll say, yeah. Pretty hyped.
Yeah. Regardless of how you feel about government, I feel like everyone should do this job once. It's a neat job to learn how the process works, and then you get to see how crazy the old people are in this community. Because people will constantly accuse you of trying to steal their votes and say all this crazy stuff for you. Like, so this is what confused people a lot in the beginning of this. Is Pittsburgh used to have a digital voting system, right? And so you'd show up. I don't know if you believe in voting or if you like voting, but you would show up. You get your information. There'd be this little information block. You take over. You'd plug into the machine.
Oh, I remember those.
And you would tap in, your votes, and then the thing would come out like your ballot has been cast or something. Like you hit a button that said "I voted," right? So because of everything that happened, with all the election stuff, they found a safer way of doing it. That way it was unhackable. It uses computers and it uses a Scantron sheet, but it's never connected to an internet network.
Oh,
so you can't hack into it because it's never connected to the internet. It's pretty smart.
Yeah, simple.
But old people who got used to this fancy technology, suddenly they had to fill out a sheet and it would get scanned into a machine, not connected to the internet, and would go into a bin. And they were like, you're stealing our ballots. And I'm like, you never could keep them before. What are you talking about? You were out of your mind. It was like every 10th person, I don't like this system. It's like, I don't know what to do, man. We can verify your vote. But also, you don't write your name on it, so no one knows. But so anyway, so for each ballot, it's different for Democrats, Republicans, Independents, the way the ballots are set up. Because there's certain things only Democrats can vote for and vice versa. But, general civil-wide issue. I know this is super engaging. Everyone loves civics. It's so cool right now. I bet there's some kid at home be like, oh my God, I'm going to be a poll worker too someday.
I'm inspired right now. I'm very inspired.
So anyway, the point I'm trying to get at is this. So we live in a major metropolitan city. Well, barely, but we do. I love Pittsburgh. I'm not trying to...
We just get over the hump.
We're a big, small town. And so there's three different... We're in a elementary school gymnasium.
Right.
There's three different districts in here. So we each have three different polling areas. I have mine. They're all separate. So this guy comes in one of the other ones, and they've had 95 people come in so far, and every single person has gotten a Democratic ballot, right? And so when the 96th person comes in to this polling place, for the past 45, 50 minutes, because it was really busy, they've only been handing out Democratic ones. So guess what happens when they hit to the 96th one?
Yeah.
They hand him a Democratic ballot. But the guy was a Republican.
Oh my God.
And so we don't mind you. We barely see this happen. Right. And I'm over there dealing with our people. And this guy goes into his booth. It's this little white thing. He's filling it out. And he comes back over and he's like, who are these people? Who are these people I'm voting for? Right. What is this about? I've never seen any of these names before. And they're like, oh my God, oh no, we're so sorry. We gave you the wrong ballot. And this guy's like, you pieces of shit. And he starts, like, loses it, like, immediately, like, you're trying to steal my vote. This is everything Fox News has said. And he goes, like, 1 to 10. And the guy who's the judge of elections on my group, he is a former Marine.
Oh.
And he is the nicest guy I have, like, ever met. And he went from, like, 1 to ballistic with him. And immediately matched this guy's energy. And this guy's like, we'll give you a new ballot. No one was trying to steal your phone. And he's like, I'm getting Fox News down here right now. And he's like, you're going to get Fox News down here right now. Go ahead and do it, man. Let's get him on speed. Do you have the phone number for Fox? Maybe you can email them. Get it today. And they're screaming and they're yelling.
Oh my God.
Like, all we do is we want you to vote. And like, people are, he's just, this Marine's just like, I just want you to be able to vote. Why are you yelling like this? It was a mistake. Your ballot was not casted. Even if it was, we could. And he's explaining all of these rules to them. They're screaming at the top of their lungs. And me and this other guy are slowly pushing them outside. But then this is the thing, this guy has his wife there, and she starts trying to scream at the rest of us, and she's yelling at me, and she's like, I don't understand why there's no fucking goddamn Republican signs outside. And so I finally just lose it at this point, because I'm like, Greg's dealing with this, I'm dealing with this lady. I was like, people independently show up here and then put up those signs. If you lived out in the country, there'd be a shitload of truck and Trump signs here right now. And like, this is super unprofessional. This is also like my first day doing this. And it just goes on and on and on. And finally, he comes back like an hour later and he's like, I'd like to vote properly now. Greg had to leave. Like, Greg had to leave for, I'm using a fake name, but he had to leave for a while. And it was like one of those like, I was like, I thought I was gonna kill him. I thought he was gonna kill him, like just strangle him, jam a ballot down his throat and just throttle him. I was like, I want you to vote. Like that, I'm like, that's a good judge of elections. that was so nuts. Oh by the way, no one. Anytime I've ever talked about this on stage, no one finds this funny. But I got a kick out of it personally. It's more of those like. It's fun to hear. It's like if people are passionate about it. I might try to get closer election day or something. Like actually, it's been a while. So,
do you want to tell one more story, Derek? Or?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we were kind of started out talking about stand up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's a world we both like inhabited, and like it's so stand up attracts. Like, it's hard to say who the customers are sometimes when you run an open mic. You've never been to a comedy open mic before. Let me tell you, I've been to a lot of them. I ran them for a long time. And spent a lot of my life doing it. Way too much of it. And the thing that most people don't get about when you go to an open mic is, one, that it is not exactly a show.
Right.
It has all the facets of a show. Yeah. And that there is a stage, sometimes. Yeah. There's a microphone that works, sometimes. It's properly lit, sometimes. It's just this guy.
Yeah. Like, I think the best analogy, if I may say, is like, you've got this great like barbecue prime rib thing, and then like open mics are like the McRib. You know what I'm saying? Well, like it's kind of clean, meat.
It's more like having your expectations tampered. It's like those two kind of it works is that you might think you're going for steak dinner, and it's just like if you know what it is beforehand and you're told before you get it, you don't get mad about it. Yeah. And so like whenever I hosted shows, I always try to tamper like people's expectations. I try to tell them, like, some of this is going to be good, and some of this is going to be bad, and that's okay. Yeah. Because you get to sit there, and you get to judge them. Like, that's your job here. And it's very easy as a host to be flippant about running an open mic, and, because there's a general, like, comics are generally lean towards the negative. It always feels more truthful. It not necessarily is, but it feels that way. Oh, yeah. When you go, because you feel like when you're being cynical, you feel like you're getting closer to a real truth that people aren't acknowledging. And especially that cynicism comes in great contrast to when people are like overly happy or like, this is so good. Like, it feels like you're getting closer to a truth. Yeah. The trying to kind of get at is that, like on shows, like it's important, I think, even in an open mic, you do your best to get their name right. You try. Like, you do your damnedest. And as I found out over the years, is I've gotten people's names wrong forever, and they never corrected me. Kaylee Dumas is a person. I think I call her Kaylee Dumas for years, and I just did it because no one told me.
Yeah.
But you always try to get the name right. And the other thing is that when it's your time on stage, my job as the host is to regulate your time.
Yeah.
And to make the show move. And to
Keep
be
the
the
pace.
representative of the audience
between
there and the comics. Like, it's this weird quasi position. Like, hosting is a weird job. You've done tons of it. You know how weird it is. And so, it's, I don't have a producer. I don't have someone else doing something. Like, it's all me. Like, so it's important. And I get this thing from Dave Foley. He's a little guy who was on a little show called Kids in the Hall. Did a weekend once at the Pittsburgh Improv.
Oh my God.
Dave, I'm sorry to tell you this. It was just okay, but you're great.
Dave
He wasn't a stand-up, that's all. Like, he's super funny. And I'm glad they did another season of Kids in the Hall. It was great. Good job, Dave. Call me. But we went after a show and he was talking about stuff. It was just cool. He later talked about this on Mark Maron. That's right. Another cool podcast. He talked about how when he did a show for Lorne Michaels, a rival company across the street set up a show to try to get Lorne Michaels to come over. I think the show was called, like, Lorne Michaels, Please Come Over Here. Like, and so this was like, so anyway, they're on stage, they're being hysterical. Someone from the other company comes across the street with a big sign, comes running off the stage, and Dave Foley literally just goes, BAM! And shoves him off the stage. And he's like, this is my goddamn stage! And what we talked about, the idea is that when you are on stage for that brief modicum of time, no matter how far you came from, no matter what you did that day, no matter who you are, or what has happened, or how good or how bad you are at stand-up, for a brief couple of minutes, that's your goddamn stage.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't, there's reasons to kick people off of it. When they say crazy hate speech, or like they assault someone in the audience, or they pull off their testicles and tell everyone they're the Viper, etc., etc. It's a thing that happened once in Pittsburgh.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, it was a very dumb time. People still think it's the funniest thing that's ever happened, and I will have to say, it's the top 3. It's not the funniest. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that. It's not that story.
Right.
So, anyway, I'm setting up this. I'm getting somewhere with this. So your stage time's important. I've had people put their feet on stage before, and I've kicked them off the stage. Right after I've told them, I'm like, get your feet off this fucking this is my time, and like it goes for everybody. Like, you don't run up on people. Like, I've seen people get slapped on stage, but it wasn't when I was running it. Like, that was pretty funny. But so anyway, one night, Ham Bones is packed. I used to run this open mic for like 10 years. It's a bar called Ham Bones in Lawrenceville. It was a great little room. We got really lucky. There was a really popular bar down the street called Belvedere's. It burned down briefly. And all these people suddenly didn't have anywhere to go on a Thursday night. And here was this crappy open mic in this room. And they were like, I guess we're going to show up here. We also briefly had a reality film crew there once. That's another story. But anyway, this one particular night, there's this woman. She shows up, and she's hammered. And I vaguely knew her from the past. And by vaguely, it means we probably were friends, and I drink and smoke a lot of weed, and I forgot. And that's not really an excuse, necessarily. But anyway, so I'm doing the show. She's hammered. During one of the comics' sets, she decides to sit down on the stage and drape herself across the bottom of it with a glass of wine in her hand to watch the show. And the comic, I don't remember what comic who was on stage, could clearly feel like this was super awkward. I don't even think they addressed it. So it's kind of this semicircular stage.
Right.
And so I literally have to walk over this woman to get onto the stage. And I'm mad now. Like, I've explained my principles. Dave Foley told me it was okay. And I'm obviously not going to, like, kick this woman in the face, but I'm like, this show is not going to continue until she's gone.
Yeah.
And I do not care. Like, there is no way I am breaking on this. I am the most unprincipled. I have barely any principles. I will tell you I'm most of the time a coward. I do not like confrontation like this. I'm not an authoritarian. I don't like any of this crap. But this is the one thing that I will die on this hill. And so, I take off the comic and it's like, give it up for Schmitz, everybody. Schmitz. And I turned to her and I was like, hey, what you doing there? And she's like, just watching the show. And I'm like, can I tell you what I would like for you to do? And she's like, what's that? I'm like, I'd like for you to get the fuck off the stage. And immediately it's like, ooh! Like, the audience is like, okay, they're going to treat it like it's like a fight now.
Yeah.
And this went on for about 10 minutes, this back and forth, where she's like, I didn't like the way you talked to me. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, listen, this show is not going on anymore until you get off the stage. And she's like, you're just doing this because of your ego. I'm like, I can reassure you, that is not the reason this is happening. And eventually it comes down to this. I'm like, listen, this is kind of like what I said before. I'm like, listen, you don't have to respect me. You don't have to respect anybody here. At this point, thank God her boyfriend and her Jeff Holt showed up. And they're like, and I'm like, listen, you don't have to like anything I'm saying, but what you should do is you should respect all the time of all the other human beings that came here from work, or they're going to be here until 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning and go back to their crappy jobs. Like, you should respect their stage time. At that point, it got like, everyone, of course, stood up and clapped.
Yeah.
Fireworks went off, champagne bottles were open. And they gently escorted her out. And that should be the end of the story.
Oh my God, it's a multi-session.
This is the only time this has ever happened in my life.
Okay.
Is about, I want to say, maybe 9 months later.
What?
It's Burning Bridges Comedy Festival.
Okay.
I'm in the back area smoking a cigarette, as Derek's are wont to do at that time. I don't really smoke anymore, but at that time, I go outside, I sit down in a chair, and this woman comes up to me, this beautiful woman. And, I don't know if she's beautiful. She's like a Pittsburgh 7, which is like everywhere else 5, I guess. So she asked me for a cigarette, and I'm drunk. I'm like, here you go. She sits down in the chair, and she asked me to light it for her, and she's looking at me weird. And she's like, do you remember me? And I'm like, no. I don't remember. Yeah. It's not what I remember from the story. I'm staring at a stage of a drunk woman with a wine glass, and I'm fighting with her.
Yeah.
And trying to manage the situation, and it's her. And she's there with her boyfriend, the guy who initially got her to leave the first time.
Yeah.
And she goes on this psychobabble rant about how I embarrassed her and how I did this to hurt her. And I'm like, this is all about me. And I'm trying to explain to her, like, there's like a couple other comics like Shannon Norman and Alex Apula are like all there, or like come out with me. You can see I'm like stuck in this conversation. Now her boyfriend starts coming at me. Like, he starts yelling at me. And I'm like, okay, can you guys deal with her for a second? And I was like, hey man, listen, I'm not trying to like give you any crap here, but like, you did carry her drunk ass out of here and apologize at the time when it happened. So maybe you should shut your mouth. And so this is like, she's like talking about beating the crap out of me. She's like threatening. She's like, Jeff isn't here now to save you, buddy. And I'm like, you didn't save me before. The crowd was gonna kick your ass out. Like,
yeah.
And I'm just
on your
like,
side, man.
and it was like this. Like, I'm like, oh, she's just as drunk as before. So she's like going back to this situation. I'm like, this is the deal. I think you have a drinking problem.
Oh, she's like drunk.
And this is me. And this is like,
drunk
yeah.
quantum leap or something.
Well, it's like she's having this recollection of this moment. I probably ruined drinking for her. And I'm like, listen, if you're really this mad at me when you're sober, come and find me when you're not pissed drunk, and we'll talk about this again. I'm gonna get up now. If you want to hit me, now's the time. And I walked up and I walked away, and like, that was it. I've never seen that lady ever again since. But I've talked about you on a bunch of podcasts, bitch. Ha!
Now all 35 of my listeners will know about it.
Yeah, 35. Vince's hot 35. But yeah, that was probably the weirdest heckling, weird. Because it's so weird she came back. I've never had that happen. Like, so I kind of touched this at the beginning of the story, but it's like, later I realized that she was a bartender there, like years before that. And I probably did like have a very friendly, jovial conversations with her and stuff. But I never thought, like, I honestly felt bad. Like, later, I was like, oh, man, I was probably, like, really nice to her, and she thought we were friends, and I didn't think anything of it. And, like, that's shitty.
Yeah.
Like, and like now you kind of think about the situation. You're like, she sat there because she was having a fun time with a friend, and a friend was like, "Get the fuck out of here." So it's like, okay, well, I guess I'm maybe not the hero of this story after all.
Oh man, I think the weirdest time I got heckled where it was like, and people didn't know I was. Here's the thing: I was being heckled, but I wasn't on stage. This also happened at Hambones, where it was one night at Hambones, and I hadn't gone up yet, but my ex had showed up that night, and she signed on to the list, and she got on stage. Yes, and I think
I don't remember this.
Well, here's the thing: at the time, I think there was only like, I'm not even sure how many people there that night knew who she was in relation to me, because they just saw this like pink-haired, goth chick come in.
Wait. Okay. I think I know what we're talking about now.
Okay, yeah.
Yes.
I'm not gonna.
I'm not
giving up too much information.
Yeah.
So she shows up. This is like I don't think we'd even broken up. Like, it had been more than a year at this point. But she shows up. I'm like shocked to see her because she knows I come here. Mm-hmm. And she signs up. She gets on stage, and she doesn't really tell jokes as she goes on this empowerment rant. And I don't remember everything she said, but she made some comment about, it's so long ago, comment about our sex life or something like that. I don't, because I'm not going to go into it. I want to retain some shred of being a gentleman. But it's like, made this comment about our sex life. And then she mentioned that after we broke up, she fucked two people at a party randomly, and she's just been fucking along since we broke up.
It's like when people say this shit, it's like, how well can you psychologically be if you have to come here and tell me? Yeah. How is it so great? Because when you win is when you don't have to go back and tell them about it. But when you do have to, you have to shove it in someone's face like that, it's like, who's the real loser here?
Yeah. And here's the thing. Everyone in the crowd was cheering because they said, "Oh, this is chick. She has some asshole ex, and maybe he didn't pleasure her enough or something." That's
he
why
didn't
she was
work that clit enough.
Something like that. And she
I've been that guy.
So she made that rant about how she's just fucking whoever she wants now. And everyone's like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, you have all the sex you want, bitch. You do it." And meanwhile, once again, I think maybe one or other two people in the whole building knew who the fuck she was besides myself. And she got down off the stage and I did my stand up. I didn't mention her or anything. I didn't try to counter back because
what does it matter?
Because even if it said it was me and I never did anything wrong, it totally would have come across as some oh, this guy's trying to recover or something. She had the crowd, so I didn't. But it's just and I haven't spoken to her since we broke up. I've seen her because she.
Do you think she came there directed at you? That's the question, or is it just coincidental?
I never saw her come to. This was at Hambones, which is the same place you were just talking about. I never saw her come to Hambones again to do that open mic. Maybe she did other open mics, but here's the thing: when I broke up with her, I knew we were never going to be. It wasn't going to be wait, we're going to break up. It's going to be maybe weird for a while, but maybe we'll be friends again afterwards. Because plenty of people have relationships.
Yeah.
I knew.
Sometimes you know.
Yeah, and I knew when we broke up, she would never forgive me. And I want to make something clear. I'm not saying that I was a saint in a relationship.
Yeah.
I made mistakes, and I like to think I've grown from those mistakes.
Well, how else do you? You gotta mix up that batter.
Yeah.
That's the expression people use in the streets. I don't know why I'm talking like a 1940s movie suddenly.
Boys in blue.
Boys in blue down the block. My Girl Friday over here. Cha-cha-cha-cha.
The Yankees won the World Series.
I love Karl Marx. Barco. Barely know her.
Yeah, so that has to be the weirdest heckle I ever got because it was weird because I didn't even get on stage yet and people didn't realize that I was getting heckled.
I will tell you that this does happen. This is unfortunately not a unique story in that people use stand-up sometimes as a personal attack platform.
Yeah.
I've yelled at comics for doing it before.
Yeah.
And most of the time they were friends that I would say. Usually if it's some weird, but I know a local comic that he was dating a girl and she started doing stand-up pretty much to spite him and then started trying to bang a bunch of other comics to get at him. It was whoa, And I witnessed some of it, and it was like, this is such a weird variety. And of course, after a couple weeks, she dropped away. Like
she got it out of her system.
I mean, it wasn't funny, like, at all. Like, and then, like, it was just so messy. But, like, I've seen stuff like that a couple times. Like, it's so weird.
Yeah, that's a bad thing when cause like, here's the thing at the end of the day. I am one of those people that view stand-up as like an art form because there is a rhythm to it, there is a style. Everyone's got their own, like, it's like a painter. Every painter's got their own way that they paint. Every comedian's got their own rhythm and style and type of topics they bring up. Some comedians keep them like more everyday life stuff. Some comedians are political. Some comedians are whatever.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to express yourself and give your viewpoint and find the funny aspects of something that may not be funny or whatever. But at the end of the day, you got to remember you're also there to entertain people. And if you're not taking the entertainment factor into your routine, then you get the fuck off the stage. I'm sorry, like if you're just getting up there to be mean to somebody, then you're wasting the crowd's time. You're wasting the host's time.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, I think the people sometimes someone was talking about on a podcast, like, the main job of stand-up community is to motivate and change people's minds for the better. And the other guy was like, I thought we were supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, I think it could be both in a way. I think your primary purpose is to be funny. It's just how you find that humor. You can go further with it. Like, I'm not a political comic. We have a friend who's a very political comic, and I've told him, like, I don't find any of this funny. Like, I'm not. I love this man to death. He's one of my favorite people.
I know exactly. I love him.
I mean, it's Chris Bohan.
He was on the show earlier. I'll put a link in the.
I mean, it's just I don't have to lie to him.
Yeah.
Like, I don't lie. I don't find a lot of comics funny. Like, but I can respect that other people do.
Yeah.
Like, I have to understand that my world perspective is not everyone's perspective.
Oh yeah, they're really like world famous comedians that that are highly respected.
Yeah.
And I don't hate them, but their stand up just doesn't do it for me. So I'm not gonna name them because I don't want to start having bullshit. But.
Oh man, I'm trying to think of Brian. So this is Brian Regan. If you're out there, listen. I just don't get it. Like, I don't think he's a bad performer. I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's doing. Tons of people love him. I just doesn't click for me.
I do like Brian Regan stuff.
Yeah.
I think he's very funny. But again, like, I'm a comedian we both know. Well, former comedian. I remember him telling me one time, like another well-known comedian. He said he just doesn't get Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And Kevin Hart's a world, like, he really has fans in other countries. He's really
internationally famous.
Yeah, internationally. That guy
he was in a Jumanji. Like, come on.
Yeah, and like, I personally like Kevin Hart's stand up, but I can understand why some people don't. Not everybody.
And some people are, like, clearly more decisive than other people. Like, there's people generally most people find them funny, like someone like John Mulaney.
Yeah.
Or, but, like, now, like, you say, like, it's so weird to say, like, Louis C.K. now, and because, like, how different that vibe has become with him. Like, 10 years ago, tons of people were like, he's the funniest working comic in the country right now. Now it's like, man.
I'm going to admit it, like, I don't know what it was, but Louis C.K., I watched his stand-up, it never worked for me, but I could see what other, but besides the, but what other people were getting out of it. He had he was in movies. He usually is, a decent actor. He had the show Louis. I got why people enjoyed his stand-up.
By the way, I just want to be abundantly clear. If for some reason you're fine with what Louis C.K. did, I'm going to tell you this. No, technically he did not molest anyone. But however, what he did was destroy people's careers to cover up the fact that he masturbated in front of
totally,
people.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And if you don't get how fucked up that is, and the levels he went to hide that, and how far the comedy community went through dealing with that, fuck you. I'm telling you that right now. What he did was evil, and he has not spent enough time apologizing for it. Yeah. And I don't care that he has plenty of fucking money. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, he's back. He's touring. He just won a Grammy this past year, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. That's how you know. Like, people are like, "Oh, Grammy's so liberal," or whatever. I mean, actually, I don't know if anyone says that. I don't know.
He wasn't on, like, the level of, like, Harvey Weinstein, who literally was like, "Hey, do you want a career in movies? Well, come over here and grab my dick." But it was still disgusting, nasty. Like, like he said, his manager would threaten people. It's like, "You tell anybody about this, I will end your career. You'll never get a job." Like, that kind of bullshit. Like, he didn't take it all the way, but he took it far enough where it's like, no, middle finger to you, dude. What would the, like, and yeah, like, I mean,
that's the part that just, it's like, dude, I just never found his apology sincere. He went right back to work. Like, and most people don't get why what he did was so bad. Like,
yeah, it wasn't just like the sexual aspect of it.
Yeah.
It was a career aspect too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just because like he was like one of the top guys. Period. Like there was only a few like in the time that during that time who were like in terms of popularity and the fact that once you reach that level in any entertainment industry, you have a lot of like clout to work with, and he had a ton. There's only other people like once again Kevin Hart, maybe Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Who, once
but this is what it comes down to. He used his power to abuse people, and I don't think he ever sincerely gave a shit about what he did.
Yeah, I would say I think the only person that probably he like was sincerely apologizing to me because like he's got like daughters or something. He maybe
he's two daughters.
Yeah, he's got probably apologize to them because they had I'm sure they got bullied at school and
Yeah.
stuff like that. At least I would think that he was probably sincerely apologetic.
It was just like everything he had was like ruined for me. Like I loved his show. I thought his show was really interesting. I thought it showed a bunch of great aspects of comedy and just like working in that field and like how it was almost like sketches about being a stand-up. It was interesting and it did a lot of cool things. His wife was just a black woman because he didn't care about it. She was the best actress, not that she needed to have less melatonin in her fucking skin.
Yeah.
Like it was like his kids didn't really look like his daughters were written really well. Like, and it dealt with all kinds of really interesting situations and just like one of the best parts is like he's in a writer's room and he's killing it and the executive pulls him aside and like, pitch me your show. Pitch me the show. It's a show about a guy whose life just keeps continually getting shittier and shittier and shittier and shittier. And that show, every season this guy's life gets worse, is how the show works. And the executive's appalled by it, but it's like, that's a thought a stand-up would have. That's a pitch a stand-up would have for a show. Like,
oh man. Ah, shit.
yeah.
Well, this turned into a half talking about crappy customers, a half.
We'll cut this part out. Cut out whatever you want. I don't care.
Oh man. But anyway, yeah. Oh man, dude, Derek, this has been a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, this is a blast, man.
I know. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
And hey, thank you all once again for tuning in. If you got if you got any crappy customer stories, or if you'd like to share, comment section is right there to let us know with. If you want to see Derek do stand up, I'll leave a link for him where you can find him down in the comments.
I have an album on everything, including YouTube. Buy me now. Go to Bandcamp, DerekMinto.com. Like, click, and subscribe.
Like, click, and subscribe, please. I need the help.
Yeah, seriously, stop what you're doing and like this. If you've made it this far, it's actually really impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
My mom bails usually about minute 50, so.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you had some fun. Hope you found it cathartic. But anyway, we'll see you next time on The Patronarchy.